One of the most satisfying and practical garden activities is to grow your own food. So today I'm going to be planting up some cut and come again salad crops. The wonderful thing about these small salad crops is you don't actually need a garden to grow your own. The only things you'll need are some seeds, a small container and some compost. I'm actually going to use this old ice cream tub. You can get some tubs that are made specifically for windowsills, and this is what this one is here. It's got a little drainage pot at the bottom to catch the drips. But what you're looking for is a tub or pot that is thinner than it is long, so that it'll fit comfortably on your windowsill or in a nice sunny spot in front of the window. Now if you are going to use a tub like this, it's important that you put some drainage holes in the bottom, because what we want is a nice well-drained soil mix inside, otherwise you might rot the roots of the plants. Probably the safest way to do this is with a drill. Put a few holes in there. And that'll mean that any excess water can run off. Now if you think ahead and keep the lid for your pots, you can put the lids underneath and they will catch any drips that come through. I'm not that clever, so I'll be finding a different lid to put underneath when this goes on the windowsill. Now the mix of compost you use is fairly important in so much that it needs to be well drained. That means a fairly high level of grit. You don't want it to absorb too much moisture, otherwise you may risk rotting the roots. So what I have here is a general purpose mix of compost. I've also got some vermiculite in here, and I'm going to add a little extra grit into the mix. If you don't have grit, it should be fine. If you don't have compost, you could probably use garden soil. If you've got any extra nourishment in terms of plant food that you can add to the mix, that will be good if you are going to use garden soil. You can still buy compost online and get it delivered to your house if you can't get out to get it. We don't need this to be too deep. I'm probably going to put, 2 inches of compost in. The next thing we're going to do before we put the seeds in, and I'll talk about which seeds you could use in a minute, I'm actually going to water this soil. The reason I'm going to water it before I put the seeds in is if I put the water in afterwards, it may wash the seeds around and you'll get clumps of seeds where I want a consistent bed. Now there are various ways that you can water your soil, of course, but one of the simplest ways is to just take a larger container of water and hold the compost down underneath, and that'll draw up all the moisture at once. Just leave that for a minute or so and I'm going to go and get my seeds. So now that my compost is nice and moist, I'm going to start planting my seeds. You're certainly not restricted in the types of salad crop you can grow. You can grow one of a kind, but I like to mix them up a bit so you get a bit of variety of flavour when you cut them off. Now do pour them onto your hand rather than directly into the seed bed, because there can be thousands or at least hundreds of seeds in these packs and you only want a small number of those. I'm going to start with the mustard and then move on to the lettuce. Remember that each one of these seeds is going to grow into its own plant, so you really don't need that many. In terms of spacing, it's not that important. You can grow them in lines, but if we're growing them in a tight, compact space like this, it's fine just to dot them around, try and get them evenly spread across your container. And here are our lettuce seeds. So now that my seeds are in the tray, I just need to put a very fine layer of compost on top. You can do that by hand, just sprinkle a little on top. Or if you have a sieve, preferably a gardening sieve, you can use that and that'll make sure that there's no large clumps going in. Just going to give that a little shake to level it off, not touch that. Now all I need to do is put that in a sunny spot, keep it nice and moist, maybe water it every 2 days or so if it's in a sunny position. And within a week you should notice some small shoots coming through, and within 3 weeks you should have something that looks a little bit more like this. Now this is exactly the same mixture of what I've just planted, and the great thing about these cut and come again salads is you can do just that. If you cut them about an inch above where they're coming out of the ground, you can eat the leaves and you will get more leaves growing from underneath. And you can do that up to 3 or 4 times before you start getting some bitter leaves you need to discard and grow again. So it's a good idea to keep a number of these pots running at any one time, so you can cut one and then move on to the next one. And you don't even need pots for this. I've just planted some seeds in the compost that I put in these old egg boxes. I did that a week ago and I can already see some shoots of some of the lettuces coming through, and I'm fairly confident I'll be able to eat these within about 2 weeks' time.
And that's all there is to it. Now it's just a case of popping it on my windowsill. If I was going to put it outside, I'd make sure it was very well protected from slugs and snails. This is going to go in my kitchen, which is ideal because when I want to eat it, I can just cut them off and sprinkle them on my plate, and it makes a wonderful addition to any meal.